Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we're talking about how to turn your dreams into reality. Sounds a little bit like Disney or Pixar, and I love that. I can't wait to dive in with our guest today. So why don't we just get right there? Derek Selinger, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Oh, my great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I was just telling you before we started recording, Derek is he's from Mexico. He lives in Mexico now. Yesterday's episode, I introduced our guest as the first guest from Mexico. Well, that's already out the window. I love how we're just going international with this show very quickly. And you're joining us from Canada today. So welcome in, turning your dreams into reality. This is, I could not think of a more important topic for entrepreneurs because we're taught to, dream, but also live within the box of reality. So tell me your perspective on this topic, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, you really have touched on one of the great conundrums with this idea of being a visionary and being a dreamer is we realize we live in a world that's very practical and we have practical things we have to worry about. So you don't want to have your head pie in the sky and be thinking about impossibilities and wasting your time. But at the same time, how do you move things forward in your life? It's by expanding those boundaries. So you need to find, we all need to find this kind of equilibrium between the two. I literally did a TEDx talk on this idea. And I think one of the most important things, especially those of us that have been in business for a while, that have been doing this for a while, that have gone through the rigors of trying to make things happen, is we have to remember to play with ideas again. It's very easy to lock into the problem structures of our businesses, of our organizations, of how are we going to solve this next, problem and put out this next fire. And we have to create space for ourselves to have these grand ideas, these grand visions, to literally play again. We got into this because of an idea that sparked imagination and excitement. And especially when we're getting to the end of the year and we're looking into the next year, it's so important to reacquaint ourselves with that essential vision, that deep desire that got us to this place already, and then to begin to play with ideas again and to wonder what could be. What if I tried this other thing or tried it in a different way?
I love that. Full disclosure, I should have warned you about this before we started recording. This episode will air early February-ish. So we are recording at the end of the year.
Yeah.
However, I think that's interesting because most people give up on their New Year's resolutions, air quotes, or goals. 80% of people give up by February 1st. So
Yep.
I think this is perfect timing either way. So let's create that space and let's start to dream big, because you touched on it. There's nothing that brings you back to reality quicker than, payroll's $10,000 and I have $5,000 in the bank, or this employee's quitting and they're my lead manager, whatever that may be. We are constantly forced back into reality as entrepreneurs, but we need to create that space to dream and to expand our organization and our vision of where we want to go. So how do you get people to step into that dream?
Yeah. All the great innovators, whether it's Buffett or Jobs or creatives in the arts, they all have intentional time set aside for this creative thought. And it has to be intentional because, it's that tyranny of the urgent that we've heard about, that we're always chasing our tails as it were, solving problems. So if you don't set aside moments of time, I would suggest weekly, setting aside at least an hour where you're going to go into an imaginative space and play with ideas. And this word play, you've heard me say it several times. It's the thing that we forget. We a lot of what I do, because I'm a master magician, is I try to acquaint people with this sense of play, this childlike wonder of creativity again, because it's in that space where there's no limits that we come up with ideas that we could not have imagined. So one of the most important things, probably I could say to any of us, I say it to myself all the time, is when you get into this allotment of time that you set aside, maybe it's weekly, maybe it's even daily, that'd be amazing. An allotment of time where you're going to think creatively, to go into it with a wide sense of wonder and not analyze right away. So you come up with an idea of what could be. The first thing we naturally want to do as business people is go, okay, now how do I do it? Okay, no, it won't work because of this, right? We quickly like go into this deeply analytical part of ourselves. And one of the our creative mind is different than our analytical mind. They're different parts of the brain, like literally different parts. They access different systems. So when we start engaging analysis too early, we literally squash our creative dreams. So uh, it really is to give yourself permission to be silly, to play with ideas, and to sketch out grand visions. And then later, after you've spent time here, you could go through a cycle, through a process of analyzing and realizing those dreams with practical goals and processes.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I definitely err more on the side of analytical
Mhm.
myself. I have access to the dreaming and the visioning, but I love figuring out how things work and connecting those dots. I personally have found it helps for me to do this stuff with other people, with other members of my team, where we have, in our company, we have a CVO, Chief Visionary Officer. His job
Yeah.
is to vision. Talking with him and just letting him go and prompting him to go, and then for me to sit down and say, okay, let's connect these dots is magical for me. I can't go to the places that he gets to in a matter of minutes. It would take me weeks.
Yeah.
But for me, I know how to lean into my role. So I know you said before we started recording that you do work with teams. You work with corporate teams in small group experiences. Do you find that as well? And how do you get whole teams to go through this sort of an exercise?
Yeah. But you nailed it. You nailed it. That one of the great strengths of being in a team environment, versus being a solopreneur trying to be everything to everybody, is that you have access to other people's skill sets and gift sets. Uh, we all need to at least be acquainted with the process, right? Like the dreaming, even if your gifts are analytical, it's still important to allow yourself to be in a playful space. And the way you do it is exactly like you described. You hang out with someone that's their natural proclivity. That's where their genius is. And when you spend time with them, watching them in their genius, you can absorb that and then bring them into your area of genius. And that really is the brilliance of team dynamics. And when CEOs or managers or executives are looking at hires, it's really easy to go, I like this person because they're like me, but anybody that's hired themselves knows that's not the person they need. They need somebody that covers off other areas that are not your natural gifts.
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way a couple times. So I'll,
Yeah,
I'll be the first
we
one to
all have.
admit it. I think we all have.
Yeah, yeah,
um, no, but I love this, and I'm curious. So I understand, the play and getting
yeah.
people to dream and to think bigger and to get outside of the box that
Hmm.
we and society have put ourselves in to a
Hmm.
large degree. How do we come back and actually bring that to reality? It's one thing to
Yeah,
have the dream. It's another
yeah,
thing to go on the journey and then ultimately achieve it. So what does that transition look like?
right. For a lot of us in the business environment, our dreams are directly related to solving something. So we're looking at the marketplace and we're like, we have a dream to expand to this area and to do these things. So there's this stimulus is very specific. It's market needs, or it's a place you want to go, or something you want to develop. So the process of expanding on that is very simple. You start with your vision, And then you very specifically analyze. There's a second phase, an analytical phase that is very intentional, that is separate from the vision. And in the analytical phase, you're asking questions about your vision, that will inform realizing that vision and making it practical, and creating goals or small steps, the SMART goals, that are in service of the larger vision. That's a whole bunch of words, but it's basically the idea that if you're going to build something, the big idea is not the small goal. The small goal is in support of the big idea. Like if you're going to build a house, you have this grand vision of what it's going to be, but laying the foundation is a small task in service of the grand vision. The reason I say this is important is because often we get really wrapped up in the goal part of it, where we are so focused on, oh, we got to do the foundation, that we forget about what we're actually building, like the large vision. And I think the organizations that are most successful and the most enjoyable to be connected with are the ones that continue to reacquaint everybody with where we're going, with what we're doing, with what we're building, in a very deeply intentional way. And this is a very human thing. Like it's not it's not just it's not just a vision statement. It's the role of culture and conversation about what it is we're about and what it is we're doing, and continuing to talk about that vision. I think about when I was a kid, right? um, my parents would have a vision for me, like, when we're done school, we're going to go on this vacation to this place, right? And and it would help me see the bigger picture of something enjoyable that is coming, that is connected to the daily task, the drudgery of schoolwork back then. Well, it's the same thing in business. Like, some of the things we do are kind of, they're heavy lifting. So if we can connect to the vision, to the dream of it all, and if we can connect our people to that, then you see, like, culture becoming something otherly, something dynamic.
Yeah, I heard this story. I think it was back in the JFK era when there was this janitor at NASA, and I'm sure you've heard this story too, and some of our listeners have. But it reminds me of the importance of this conversation, where someone was touring the NASA facility and they asked the janitor, "What do you do?" And he didn't reply with, "I'm doing maintenance" or "I'm sweeping the floors." He said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." And
Exactly.
it's so powerful to get outside of, like, you may be sweeping dust off of the floor, but there is a larger vision and a team dynamic that you're a part of. And I think that I see it firsthand too. We forget this as entrepreneurs. I've consulted with companies where turnover is high and morale is low. And it's simply because we forget to remind our people that we are going somewhere. And
Yep.
maybe we forget to remind ourselves too. And that's why personally, I see the value and the importance in this very conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the magic of what you do? Like, what,
Mhm.
and part of it is the magic of who you are. Like, you talked early about the power of your team dynamic, and that's your superpower. That's all. Like, it's so dynamic. We When we involve others in the vision, we become exponential. Now we can go places that are impossible as an individual. It's so magical. That's literally what I talk about with my project, is the power of our memory, and our shared memory, and the power of connection. That when we understand who we were and how we're together, we can now project how we're going to go to new places together in a dynamic way.
I so love this conversation, Derek. This is fascinating. I'm wondering if you're able to, and you may not, and that's totally okay. I
Sure.
understand NDAs and all that fun stuff. Are you able to share maybe an example of a company that brought you in, what they thought they were bringing you in for, and then what actually happened as a result of working with them? Because I think that would be an interesting case study.
Yeah, I did, in New York City. My first, so my project's called Box of Wonders. It's a bespoke, immersive theatrical experience. And it looks like a magic show on the surface because I'm a master magician, so I use my tools. And we went and performed for a group from Salesforce. And we're in this back area of this beautiful restaurant. And they didn't know exactly what they were coming into. But what I witnessed in front of me from these folks who all knew each other but didn't know each other, what I watched happen was they went on a journey of entertainment and enjoyment, but deep memory, connecting to my memories and connecting to their own memories in a new way. And I watched them become more than just a collection of colleagues, but they had this kind of social cohesion happen amongst them. And I received like compliments that, they make your head grow big. Like things like this experience changed my life. I see my work different. I see my colleagues differently. And that's what artists do, is we provide that perspective. And that's what I do. But the key, this is the secret, and you could do it on your own. The secret to making that happen in any team environment, even if you don't have someone like me that you could bring into that experience, is time. It's taking a intentional moment to tell true and meaningful stories to each other. Like I would I would guess, and I know this to be true because I've been in these executive environments where we have executive teams that work with each other on high levels and they don't really know each other's story. What if you spent an afternoon and instead of, maybe you have a bit of the social thing, the bowling or the golf or whatever, but it doesn't just become this kind of like, oh, we had a great time, but it was intentional, where you spent 10 minutes having each person on your executive team tell you a story about themselves, a true story about their passions, what makes them tick. You're going to get to know them better. You're going to get to know their skill sets better, and you're going to build trust and social cohesion on a far different level. This is the stuff of culture, right? We think that culture is, Blue Jean Friday or having drinks. No, it's narrative, it's story, it's connection, and this can be done with you could use a professional like me, but you can do this on your own. You can make this happen.
I love this, Derek. I could not picture a cooler conversation around this topic. I love that you brought play into it too. If you're watching, you can see behind me, the top of our logo just happens to be a play button.
I
Because if
love
you're
it.
not playing in business, well, you're not going to be having fun for very long.
It's
I
so
can
true.
promise you that. So, Derek, I love this. If someone does want to bring you in or at least learn more about what you do and how you do it, how it can help their organization, where can they go to learn more about you?
Yeah, thank you. Go to my website, derekselinger.com. I'm pretty sure it's on the screen. And you'll see a bit about me and my work. There's not a lot of conversation about my corporate endeavors. I keep that for these types of conversations and people that I've met privately. But there's like my appearance on Penatellar Foolis and my TEDx talk is there. But if you head to Box of Wonders, you're going to see a little bit about how I accomplish that through my art and through my process. And there's a form there you could fill out, and Ryan is in charge of my business development, and he'd be in touch with you to see if we're a good fit, if that's of interest to you.
Amazing, Derek. I love it. Those links are down below in the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening. Make sure to put all the links to contact Derek down there. Thank you so much for being here.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Brennan.
For those of you watching and listening, I hope you enjoyed this conversation first and foremost. I know I did. I hope you got a lot out of it. And now I hope you go take action on it. How are you going to have fun and play in your company, build your culture outside of Blue Jean Fridays, of course, although that is fun too. But anyway, I hope you subscribe. Come back for more of this content 5 days a week. We want to help you build a more harmonious business and life. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious.